Okay, so thank you all for joining us for the Q&A session. I don't have a specific time limit set in mind. We'll just kind of play it by ear. We'll see how things are going. We'll keep it really casual. We're going to start with introductions, and we'll go in the order in which we joined the team.
We start
So,
with Ghana.
yeah.
Oh, that makes me first.
No, I'll go first. Oldest to newest. So my name is Chris. I am the director and programmer and writer for the game. I guess I've been working on the game for maybe a little over 5 years now, starting from just like the earliest idea phase and just thinking about what I wanted the game to be. Go ahead, Janine.
Oh. Hey, I'm Janine. I'm an artist, an all-around artist, I guess. I like doing a lot of varied things. I don't just like do 2D stuff. I do like whatever Chris needs me to be at the moment. Yeah.
And how long have you been working on the game?
I I tried to do the math in my head and then I just didn't bother. So like,
A while.
Yeah.
a while.
Janine was the first person that joined the team way back in like 2022. Actually, that's been 4 years now.
Oh yeah.
Wow,
Oh
okay.
wow. Who are you?
Yeah, 4 years. Wow. Go ahead,
Go
Greta.
Greta.
I'm Greta. I'm half of the animation team, and I've been working on the game for a little over a year now. It's been very fun.
Nice. Yeah. The I think that job description, I think we're way past the initial terms of that job description at this point. I think it was expected to maybe be a couple months or something at the time. We didn't know exactly how long it was going to last. Glad you're still here with us.
Yes. It's a
So
happy
the
surprise.
yeah. So the way we're going to do the Q&A session here is if you have any questions, please go ahead and type them into the chat channel over there, and we'll just go through them in chronological order. And in the meantime, while people are maybe thinking of questions, I have a few that everyone has gotten to hear from me probably a ton. I'm always happy to talk about the game, and so I thought maybe today, unless there's specific questions that I need to answer, that I could start with some questions for the other people on the team that maybe you all haven't gotten to hear from as much as me already. So I guess, and I'll ask it to each of you. Janine, I'd be curious, aside from money, because we all need money to eat, pay the bills, understandable. So aside from money, would you say there was anything in particular that drew you to want to work on the project?
Oh, like way back
Yeah, way, way
or
back when you first saw the job post. Was it on Reddit, I think?
yeah, it was on Reddit r
Yeah.
slash game dev classifieds, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think so.
It was a well, definitely I love working in the industry of like video games and I wanted to keep it that way. Especially at the time the game that I was working on previously got canceled. So I was like, oh wait, this is a cool opportunity. I want to work like closely again with like a small team creating a game like this. And yeah, and here I am. I'm really happy. Like, hey, thanks, Chris.
So, what did you think when you saw the job posting? Because at the time there was no art, there was no nothing. It was literally just here's a high level description. Was that scary at all, or was that maybe more exciting?
It was actually exciting because like, oh, I get to help with like deciding the direction of the game visually, at least. Like, again, like I really feel like my role in the team like has involvement versus like being you the feeling of being a cog in a big machine, something like that. So it was like, oh wow, this actually sounds exciting, and I was excited to work on it.
Nice. Okay, Greta, same question to you. Was there anything in particular that drew you to want to work on the project?
I think it was the premise and also the art style. Because I was coming in when you were revamping all the art assets, and I saw I think it was like on indie games. Like that's where I saw the posting, and I saw like the screenshots, and I read the description, and I was like, "This sounds like it'd be really cool to work on."
Yeah.
And I've been looking to get back into game animation because prior I'd mostly been working in like animation for like advertisements and TV. So
So you got to see the sort of before and after. I think we had already posted our updated art style from Elaine when we hired you.
yeah, there was a screenshot. It had a mix of both. I thought the designs looked like they'd be really fun and challenging to animate.
Nice. Okay, we've got a couple questions that I'm seeing. Start with Warp. Was this project the first one which came to your mind, or were you deciding maybe between cyberpunk or medieval or present? What timeline were you deciding between? So the project was always fantasy from my mind when I first started thinking of the game. There was so much tied to the uh, the lore that I wanted the players to experience, the exploration style, the combination of the type of fighting, and how I thought that the goddess would fit with the story and the world. So it was always fantasy. That actually hasn't changed a whole lot. I will actually say, surprisingly, I've seen people talk about projects that they've worked on that go through just massive changes. And Janine, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I actually think the project has gone through very little changes from the original vision of the game, aside from
Mm.
things like, hey, we want to update our art style, or finalizing the UI maybe that we want for certain places. But I don't think there's been any drastic, hey, we're completely canceling that, or this, we're doing a huge pivot. I think the biggest thing would be the change in art style that we had. Would you agree with that, Janine?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, if like they could see the very, very, very first like test assets that we did, they're like, they're
I think it's so you all know I've been keeping builds of the game since it very first existed. So I have builds of the game from 4 years ago, and I think it would be fun at some point to show you all what the game looked like 4 years ago, because it is extremely different from how it looks now. It's very fun seeing how far we've come. And it is some of those early builds. You get to see my programmer art with like stick figures and things like that. It's pretty
I
it
awful.
still
was perfect.
I remember when I first came on, I played it. There was still somewhere it's just like little MS Paint like RIP. The character was gone,
Yes.
and a stick figure here and there.
So I guess to give a little bit more explanation what Greta is saying, in the game, when enemies die, a really common thing in JRPGs is like they just kind of fade out and they go away. But in our game, when enemies die, their their bodies still stay there, so they become maybe obstacles in the enemy's grid, or things you have to work around or deal with. And even after combat, the way the looting works is a lot of JRPGs is just auto loot. You win the battle, you get all the stuff, it goes straight to your inventory. In our game, after the battle, you have to walk up and loot the bodies. So it's a little bit more permanent. The actions that you take, you're like, oh, I did this thing, I killed these people. There's their bodies. They didn't just happily fade away, and oh, I don't have to worry about it anymore. I didn't do anything bad. There's those weren't important people. Look, they just faded into nothingness. Okay, next question from Frankadator. I see there is some rock obstacles in the combat videos, which I'm assuming can be used for cover. Is there some other type of terrain element that will be implemented for combat? For example, lighting the terrain on fire from an attack, or being on specific terrain gives a buff or debuff. Maybe there's a big smash attack that breaks the rocks. I'm curious to know more about this. So, Frankinator, for the combat, there is several different types of environmental things that are planned to make combat more interesting. In that, some of the screenshots and videos we've shown, you can see things like the rocks that you were talking about. And yes, the rocks can maybe be used both to your advantage, trying to hide behind them for some defense, but maybe sometimes they're also really annoying and get in the way, and you have to get rid of them before maybe you can do the attacks that you want to do, things like that. Um, there's also what we have is there's called ether flows. And ether flows are, and if you watch the videos closely, you can see, like in some of those videos after the rock breaks, you'll see these little bubbles start floating up almost. And the way the ether flows work is they're a buff and or debuff. And they could do things like restore stamina, increase your attack, increase your defense, or the opposite, lose stamina, lose defense, lose attack. So those are some examples. There'll probably be more, and I don't want to talk about all of them, but we are really like we've got a grid and we've got a board, and I really, really want to make sure we're taking advantage of that and not just, I think if you've played Enchanted Arms, this is one of the games that people sometimes ask me, well, what's the closest combat system? And Enchanted Arms is maybe one of the closer combat systems, but there's a lot of differences still. Enemies are on their side, players are on their side, and you have the grids that you're standing in. But I don't think Enchanted Arms really pushed the grid system a lot. So I really, really want to make it very meaningful, the grid system and the spacing and the positioning and the environmental effects and all of that. So we do have quite a few things planned to take advantage of with the environment and the grid system. Okay. Hopefully, and if, by the way, if we didn't answer any of your questions the way that you were hoping or wanting, feel free to just ask again, follow-up question, and we'll follow up and see if we can get into more details about what you were asking. Next question is from Olette. Are y'all working on other projects besides this one? So I guess to give a bit more details, and I'll let the others answer as well. Technically, yes. I actually, my other job, my day job, is I work in financial software. So most of my time actually is spent working for the other job, which is how that I'm paying for the other team members. And right now, I've been, solo financing the development of the game, which hopefully is something that will be changing with, the successful Kickstarter. So for me, yes, I am working on other projects, not a game, but it is my day job, and so I mostly sneak in time on the game, in between work hours or in evenings and weekends, that kind of thing. How about you, Janine?
Uh, I mostly just do art conventions, but I've been doing that like ever since like way, way back. And it's like a side project, side art stuff that I do. Like earlier, we actually went tabled at FurryCon. It was a nice experience. Everyone was so wholesome and welcoming, and yeah,
How
it's
how much
mostly what
time
I do.
how much
So,
time do you work on the game on average every week?
oh, here, I work 3 days a week.
3 days a week.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Greta.
Yeah, I do some side contracts. Like I do some animation for some pilots. I've done some comics work and stuff like that. Um, but those are like it's more like again the one of the things I didn't like about TV and advertising is very gig based and a couple months of work. So I pick up those and do like commission for stuff. But it's still all like art related.
Okay.
More drawing on the side.
It's more drawing,
Yep,
puppet
yep,
rigs,
so,
yeah.
so
doing
this is
Bony.
this is a question for both of you because this is something that I am always curious about. Depending, how is that hard on your hands and wrists just drawing, hours and hours every
Yes.
day?
Yeah.
Yes, it is
Yep.
why I have an ergonomic mouse It is why I put ergo grips on my pens. Do a lot of physical therapy to make sure I don't get carpal tunnel or cubital tunnel.
Okay.
Greta's doing a better job at taking care
Well, okay, I'll be honest,
of
Jenny.
my
The reason I
hands.
do that is because I have had cubital tunnel before, which is like when your ulnar nerve hits your elbow, and it was not fun. And
Oh
I was like,
no.
that is never happening again.
Okay. Taking note.
I will say on my end, at least as a programmer, at least for me, I think every programmer is maybe different, but as a programmer, I probably spend more time thinking than typing. So I actually haven't. I've been programming for I don't know 20 years now, and I at least so far haven't had any issues with carpal tunnel or anything like that. Even though I hear it is fairly common, but I guess technically I don't type nearly as much as maybe you might think from a programmer. So, Vaylena, I'm so
Yes.
sorry I skipped you,
Yeah.
Vaylena. Please forgive me. Let's
I'm
get
gonna
your
bring that up because
yeah.
I'm sure as well.
I'm sorry. Okay, here's Vaylena's question. I noticed the art of the trio at the campfire. Is that going to be like a save state or hub you can be in, or a place where events/story unfolds? If it is a sort of respite, do you have to find these rest states? So, yes, to generally answer your question. In a lot of games, or at least in a lot of RPGs, there's this concept of a home base. And the home base is sort of this place where, you can take a break from combat or exploration or whatever. You can regroup. It's sort of the like reset place. And we really wanted to have a home base in our game. And what makes sense if you're a group of mercenaries wandering around the continent looking for jobs in different places? The best, closest thing to a home base is a campfire at night. And the party is going to be spending a lot of nights out on the road camping when you're traversing across the world screen. You've seen maybe in some of the information that we have a night day cycle. The campfire is not a place you have to find. It will be a place that the party can opt into, camp for the night. And so, at least currently, while you're on the world screen, the party can camp anywhere on the world screen. When you're in a zone, when you enter the zone, the time stays whatever, so you can have two different times in a zone. You can have daytime in a zone or nighttime in a zone. And when you're in the zone, it will stay whatever time it was when you entered the zone. You can't camp in a zone, even if you go into a zone at night. The camping only occurs on the world screen. And it's not necessarily a save state. The way the save, we've talked about this just a little bit, but the way the saving is going to work for the game is there's two things that you can do. There's auto saves, which will happen periodically when like you trigger a dialogue or you start a fight or things of that nature, or you can save and exit at any time. But we aren't going to have like a save and load system. So for story, there's going to be a lot of story that happens around the campfire. Depending on, you might just randomly be camping at night and like, I just wanted to restore my stamina levels, and so you're camping, and then you might be like, surprise dialogue scene. So we definitely plan on having a decent amount of story take place and happen in the campfire. One of the other things that we've talked about, which is maybe a possible stretch goal, is we've talked about incorporating. There is going to be a food system in the game. Exactly what that look like hasn't been finalized yet. So there might be like a cooking system in the game of some kind. It could be really simple all the way to a sort of advanced mini game to be determined. One of the other possible stretch goals that we had considered, again, funding limited, was I'm a huge fan of mini games. So some kind of really fun mini game to play at campfire or to play as you travel around the world. I love those a lot. And so we've talked about possibly adding something like that would happen and take place when you're at the campfire or when you're making it to new cities and villages and things like that. I hope that answered all of your questions there, Velena.
If we are gonna have cooking, I'm excited to draw the food. I'm so excited. Out of it.
You know what I love? I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but I love cookbooks that are like this game's cookbook. Like, for example, a Final Fantasy
yeah.
cookbook.
Stardew Valley.
Yeah, or the
The
Stardew Valley. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love those. I don't even cook.
Yes.
I don't even
Just like
cook,
to
and
have
I love those.
Just like
It's a food art book.
Yeah.
yes.
Those are fun. If we do end up with some fun cooking stuff in the game, I think that'd be super fun to have a cooking book for the game. Okay.
There's a Skyrim cookbook. Oh, I didn't know about that. I just read the chat. Like, what?
I think the favorite. I'm a huge Final Fantasy fan, so I think my favorite one that I've seen was a Final Fantasy cookbook. They had like
The
chocobo
Final Fantasy.
legs and things like that. It
Oh,
was it was really fun. Okay, another question from Olette. I know you mentioned the game hasn't undergone drastic changes, and the game itself is pretty much true to the original vision. Do you expect the game to undergo more iteration as you move forward, or are you at a stage where the game is pretty much stable? So I think the answer to that is yes and no. I think that the core vision of the game is locked in. I think that, for example, the combat, what you see, that is not going to change as far as like a layout. There might be changes we make where we add a few more layers to the system, add some more options, add some more things that impact choices over the combat turns. But ultimately, it's going to be very, very close to what it looks like now. I think combat is, if there's an area that will have the most changes to it, it would be combat. And that's wholly going to depend on playtesting, because I think that I feel very, very strongly that I want combat to be really satisfying. And so if we start hearing from players that, I didn't really enjoy combat in the way that I hoped I would, then that's something we're absolutely going to pay attention to, because there's some games you can say this is a story game, this is a gameplay game, and I'm being really, really greedy. I want it to be both. I'll be sad if the majority of people walk away from the game and just say, "Oh, the story was good, but combat was not something we loved," or people walk away the opposite of like, the story was okay, but the combat was really satisfying. I really, really want both to just be excellent. And of course, there's people who always have a preference. So if you're someone who just has a preference, hopefully you'll like, it's good enough to carry that preference side. But if you're someone who likes both, then this is hopefully the game for you, because I'm putting a lot of time into making sure that both are really satisfying. So the caveat to that answer is that the story, all of the bones of the story are in place. And we have, a first pass at dialogue up to a portion of the game. But something that I will freely admit to is I am not an experienced writer. And so far, I've been doing the writing for the game. And we have had some discussions with other writers, and I think adding a writer to the team is something that we have considered, because like I said, I really, really want the story to be amazing. And if that would mean bringing a writer onto the team to help really push the narrative and the characters even further, then that's something that we're open to. So the story may have dialogue changes that happen. How much does that, how different is that from the original vision? The characters won't be changing. This main story beats won't be changing, but dialogue itself could be drastically different. For example, we're hopefully going to have the alpha ready in maybe 2 months or so after the Kickstarter ends. there's dialogue that's in the alpha playtest right now, the demo, that won't, I already know is going to be changed, have plans to change. So people who play the alpha now, you'll see that there's some of the lines have voice acting, some don't, because there's already been some changes to the dialogue. There are already more planned changes to the dialogue. So the actual dialogue probably will change significantly, but that doesn't change the characters and their personality and the important story beats for the game. So maybe those are the two biggest things that you might be considered changing over the development of the game. You know, all of the other aspects I think are pretty locked in at this point. So I don't expect there to be major changes. You know, I think we've had enough playtests to say I think we've got really good bones and core of the game that I don't expect making drastic changes. All right. Next, Janine's over here doing doodles. You guys should know, sometimes we're in meetings, and I'm not an artist at all, right? And so we're in meetings, and we're talking about, hey, what if we did this or that? And Janine and Elaine are just like, oh, you mean like this, just live while we're in a meeting. And every time I'm just like, Jesus, how do you draw so fast? I'm so glad that I brought artists onto the team, because they're just like in a meeting still drawing. I'm like, I'm a one thing at a time kind of person, so I don't even know how they're able to draw while we're in a meeting.
It helps more sometimes. It helps me focus to
Yeah.
listen to what you're saying when I'm drawing.
Oh, okay. So slightly funny story. When Janine and I, when it was just the two of us, sometimes we'd be working on a design for a thing, and I'd be like, "Hey, I want to make some changes." And because I'm not an artist, working with an artist was something I'd never done before. This was my first time working with a bigger team. You know, I made the first game before, the hint puzzle game, but that was mostly a solo project. And so we'd be working on art stuff, and giving art critique is a skill. Describing this is what I want different is something I didn't have any practice with. And so we'd be talking and like, this doesn't look right. And like, well, that's not helpful, right? Like, I know, I'm sorry, it's not helpful at all. And so trying to learn how to describe this is what I need different, or this is what I would like to see changed, was an interesting learning process for the two of us to go through. And then we hired Elaine, and I think we got to a pretty decent spot there. You know, it started out rough, but I think we got to a pretty decent spot. But when we hired Elaine, all of that just went away.
Yeah.
Elaine and Janine could talk to each other and give feedback, and all of the pain of the art critique just went away, because with more artists
Elaine's was the one like giving the art
Yes.
critique and
Uh-huh.
like, oh, okay.
And Elaine being able to do draw overs and, hey, I think this is what the direction is, like, oh, this is perfect. So Elaine has been amazing, and I think we'll definitely try and make sure the next one that Elaine is able to join. But she's been an amazing addition to the team.
Mm-hmm. Elaine's paint overs are like, like
I love that. I'm like, I can figure out how something looks. I'm like, I can just ask Elaine to, like, what
Yeah,
does this face
yeah,
look
yeah.
like here? And she's like, here you go.
Yep.
Yeah, Elaine's got the magic. Okay, let's see. I think the next one is the McMiller. Will there be any impact on the story if one of the main characters dies during combat? Also, will we be able to use some sort of potion to resurrect them if they fall during combat, or will their death be definitive for the rest of the combat? So, this is a really good question, and give me a second to think about how to answer this, because I'm trying to decide if this is something that would fall into the slight spoiler territory or not. But I think this is okay. I think I'm going to answer this one. So the way that combat works at a high level is Cal is sort of the defensive focus. And when the other parties run out of, in our game, you don't necessarily have health, you have stamina. And the way combat works is that characters, enemies, players, you dodge or block while you still have stamina. And when you run out of stamina, that is when things get dangerous. There's an injury system in the game. So if Mina or Tyrannel get hit when they're out of stamina, they have a chance of getting an injury. When they run out of stamina, they actually retreat from combat. So Mina and Tyrannel, when they run out of stamina, they retreat from combat. Cal, as sort of the defensive focused party member, does not retreat from combat. So the combat fail state actually only occurs when Cal runs out of stamina, because he's the only one who won't retreat from combat. He's sort of the I'll protect you both while you're restoring your stamina, getting your energy levels back, that kind of thing. When Cal runs out of stamina and dies, it is canon and recognized by the story. And there are story events that trigger and happen when Cal dies in combat. So it is canon and does impact the story. And there's even things like, depending on when and where you die, you might get different story beats. So that I won't dive into that anymore, but that is how combat is handled and how death is handled in combat. And it is canon and recognized. When you die, it's not a reload a save state. The story and gameplay accounts for that, and you continue on. Okay, scrolling down. The most mysterious one. I love cooking systems and mini games. Okay, I'm curious. Cooking systems. Do people have a favorite cooking system? Because I am someone who doesn't cook, and I feel like I'm hit and miss on cooking systems. I think my favorite, if I had to pick one, I love the Monster Hunter cooking system. I don't know why, but it is super fun and probably my favorite. And maybe just because the cats, they get so excited when you cook.
I was gonna ask, like, which one? The roasting the meat with
Yeah,
the rhythm game?
yeah.
Or like ordering?
The roasting of the meat, and the cats just get so excited. Okay, this is maybe I'll ask Greta. What do you feel about cooking systems in games? Do you like them? Do you have a favorite one?
I like them. They're not my favorite. I tend to take the approach where I'm like, how can I min-max this or just use things to the best of my ability? Because it's kind of how I approach food in real life. So it doesn't really change when I'm in a game.
Are you like a food is fuel kind of person?
Unfortunately, yes. I think I don't have a great sense of smell, so I also don't have a great sense of taste. So like, as long as it doesn't taste bad, I'm happy.
So you'd be fine outside of the Matrix eating the gruel.
Yeah. There was like human kibble.
It's basically. Yeah, no, my favorite thing is always fishing mini games. That's where I tend to spend a disproportionate amount of time.
That's fun.
I mean, they are fun though. FF15 mini game.
They're just kind of relaxing. So
they are, yeah.
Oh, I see a couple extra faces down here in the audience. I'm gonna ask a couple people a couple questions. Jarrett, would you like to join us up on the stage?
Here.
I'll give him the option to say, nah, just hanging out. Sweet.
Let's go. Asher's also here.
Yep. I was going to ask Asher the same thing. Asher, are you just hanging out, or would you like to join us on stage? Put me in, coach. Nice. Okay.
How are you guys doing today?
Pretty good. So let's start with Jarrett. Would you mind introducing yourself? Tell everyone who you are.
Yeah, so I'm Jarrett Griffiths. I am a professional voice actor, and I am If you didn't notice by the profile pic, the voice of Cal.
Thank you for joining us today. Glad you could make it.
Absolutely. I just saw you guys on, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. There's the Q&A." So I thought I would drop in for a bit.
There's the Q&A. Yes, amazing voice. And Asher,
Our
you're
cowboy Cal.
yes, our cowboy Cal. Would you introduce yourself? Let everyone know what do you do on the team and how long have you been working on the game?
Yeah, hi, I'm Asher. I'm one of two animators currently on the team, and been working for the past year at this point. But you and I, Chris, as well as Janine, first started working together 2 or 3 years ago initially, when we were doing some much earlier passes at things. So it's been a while.
Nice,
Good long journey.
nice. Okay, I'm gonna scroll back up and see where we left off with the questions. Okay, so I think the McMiller, I think we answered their question. And we were talking about cooking systems. Okay, Asher, your turn. Oh wait, Janine, I don't think we heard from you either. What are your thoughts on cooking mini systems, mini games? Do you like them? Do you have a favorite one?
I I'm not much like a big like I don't care like how the cooking system is much. I care more about like how the food is drawn. So like
As long as it looks
Oh,
pretty,
yeah.
that's all that matters.
yeah, it looks
Presentation.
delicious. I want to eat it.
Do you have like a favorite game as far as like how they presented the food in a nice, appetizing way?
Oh, I don't have. The first thought I have is Stardew Valley. I just want to eat everything there.
Does Stardew Valley have good-looking food?
The pics.
No,
the
it's
tiny
just
What is?
pixels!
Oh, I gotta look this up. I feel like that's not what I know that for.
No, the yeah,
It's
no,
just
the
yeah.
illustrations look great. I do.
I gotta
You
look
just
this
immediately think of
up.
the little pixels though.
Yeah, no, I'm just thinking of
Yeah,
like a
it's
massive
laughing.
pixels. I'm like, there's no way.
There's even like I think a smoothie there that requires fish. I'm like, I don't care. It looks yummy. I'm gonna eat it.
Oh, the Unicorn Overlord. Like
Oh,
everything
yeah.
that studio makes looks good. I'd like the food across all the games is always
Oh,
fantastic.
Vanillaware.
Yes.
Oh,
Vanillaware just has
They
fantastic
do.
art.
yes, Dragon's Crown cooking. Oh, I had fun with that. The like
Does
you're
that game have cooking in
dragging.
it? Okay.
Yeah. It's like real time. You can even put like food on
Yeah.
the player beside you. On here, go eat up, my child.
Oh, that's super cool. I've never actually played any of those games. I
Yeah.
just look at them from afar and go, "Wow, that looks really neat."
I have this weird relationship with Vanillaware because I buy every game that they release. I am a fanboy of their studio, and I like every game that they've ever released.
So you never-
For some reason, though, I don't know if I would say that their games are amazing or great. It's like,
Oh,
for me,
They're just
they're
addictive.
they're like an 8 out of 10
Someone-
every time guaranteed, but they just can't quite break through that barrier. Sorry, Jared, what were you saying?
a shame.
Oh, nothing. Sorry. I thought I had my mic muted. I was talking
Okay.
to someone.
You're fine.
That's a shame. I hope they get it with the next one because they all look fantastic. That's interesting to
So-
hear that there's like a slight hump that they're not getting
So
over.
that's maybe a hot take, because like their games are really good. They're really good, but I don't know if I would say any of them are like top 5 favorite games all time or something. And I just don't know.
Mm.
I
There's
almost
a certain
feel
sauce that they're missing.
I almost feel bad saying that because like I buy every game that they make and I am a big fanboy and I just feel like they can't quite break that 8 out of 10 for me.
Mm.
Why would you, being able to consistently hit 8 out of 10 is pretty
Yes,
impressive. Because you have some
yes.
studios that do 10 out of 10 and then a dud and then mediocre and then a great one.
Yeah. At 13 Sentinels, probably maybe my favorite story that they've done. And maybe that's it. Maybe it's because I like so much of both story and gameplay, and I feel like they haven't quite hit that perfect balance between those two.
It's like one or the other a lot of the time.
Maybe that's what it is.
Interesting. Okay.
God, I gotta
Okay. I am
repeat.
very interested in 13 Sentinels. I think that's probably going to be the first one that I do play of theirs, if not Unicorn Overlord.
It's closer to a
'Cause I
visual
heard some amazing
novel.
things.
It's almost like it's two separate games put together.
Yeah, because I know it's got that like mech strategy
Yeah.
thing-ish going on, but
Which
I like
was
a good
fun.
visual novel.
It was fun and it was enjoyable, but it didn't feel like it really tied with the story visual novel portion of the game much. In fact, they are like
Yeah.
just completely separate.
Yeah, and I think that can definitely like impede on enjoyment if the two gameplay things are just like not interacting whatsoever.
Like thematically and story wise, they're tied, but like they don't really feel like they're tied. That's my opinion, at least. But I would
that was how
recommend.
I felt
Go ahead.
playing FF14 because it was
Oh.
like it was like, oh, I'm either doing the visual novel aspect, which is great in my opinion, or I'm doing like dungeons online with other people, and it was like it felt like two completely different mindsets for one game.
Yeah. Okay, Jarrett. Random question for you, if you don't mind answering. Um, do you,
Yeah.
in general, are so? There's a ton of voice actors who, and this is totally understandable. There's a ton of voice actors who they don't particularly, they maybe they're famous voice actors, but they don't actually play video games themselves. Totally understandable. Voice acting is a job. It doesn't mean it has to be your hobby playing games. For you, do you like to play games? Or are you like mostly just, I can appreciate them?
No, actually, I do play games. I actually built myself a little Steam machine because I got tired of waiting for Valve to release one. So I built a mini PC and then I installed Steam OS on there, and I use that pretty regularly. Lately, I've been playing Dave the Diver.
Nice.
That game's
Ooh,
amazing.
yeah,
That one,
that game looks great.
that one is it's pretty fun and surprisingly kind of deep. So
Is there like a narrative
Yeah.
going on, or do you just mean deep depth wise into the ocean?
like the story just it keeps going, right? I thought it was going to be some dumb like cooking simulator thing where you're running a sushi store and you basically go diving in the ocean to collect the ingredients, right? And I thought that would be all there is to it, but no, no, there's this giant story, and so it's
Huh.
surprisingly fun.
That's interesting. I'll have to give that game another look because I thought it looked fun, but I wasn't under the impression it had like a story at all, which is kind of
Yeah,
a
I'm
quick way for my brain to go, oh, I will never play it then.
right. And then I played Hades too, but I nearly had a stroke. Listen, I think at some point you hit an age where you just can't do those games anymore, and I'm at that age. I literally felt myself like I was getting headaches.
Oh
I went to the
no.
doctor. My blood pressure was really high, and I was like, I don't know why it's so high. And then I realized I've been playing Hades 2 every day for like the past week and a half,
Man.
and I had to stop. I had to just give it up. I'll go watch the ending on YouTube or something.
I've
I'm
done
glad
that.
you caught yourself before it was too late. That's crazy.
Yeah, seriously.
So Jared, I want to ask you and Asher the same question, and again, this is what I said before. Money is obviously a thing. We all need money. Aside from the money, would you say there was anything that drew you to want to work on the game when you first saw the casting call that went out?
Absolutely. So yeah, obviously. Money.
Spoiler free. Spoiler free.
Yeah. What normally attracts me to certain auditions is actually the dialogue, right? So what drew me to Cal was actually I think there was like this monologue where we was talking to Tyr or someone, and it was I just really I was able to connect with it. I was like, it was really it was well written. It just seemed like this guy was going to be an interesting character, and I think yeah.
It was the
That's
monologue
pretty
that
much what it is.
the monologue spoke to you.
It's all about, if I see something that pays well and has terrible writing, I'm not likely to audition for that.
Oh wow. Okay.
I will
Oh, yeah.
avoid things where I feel like I'm gonna have to do a lot of work to make a character, shine. Where it just if I'm not feeling it, I just don't do it.
Okay. Is Jared is and feel free. All anyone here, please. No one is obligated to answer any questions. So, but Jared, is voice acting your full-time gig, part-time gig?
It's part-time.
Okay.
So that's the sad thing about, I focus mostly on games and animation. And the reality is, unless you're really doing a lot more, commercials, uh, e-learning, corporate narration, that kind of stuff, you're probably not going to pay the bills. Maybe if you live in LA, but I don't. And so I have to have a day job.
Sounds
So I
familiar.
work in IT.
Okay. Nice.
Oh, right on, right on.
Yeah.
That's good stuff.
So, Asher, your
What was
turn.
the monologue that got you? Which Cal
No, we're not
monologue
going to
was
talk
that?
about. We're not talking about
Oh,
the
we can't
monologue.
talk about it at all.
We're not talking
Honestly, it's been man, that was
It's been a while.
15
Yeah.
years ago. It's
Yeah.
been a while.
Okay.
Mhm.
Shoot.
Yeah, we did the initial
All right.
casting maybe 2, maybe even 3 years ago now, and the VAs have been amazing. They've stuck with the project for years now, which thank you so much. The project has been, a long one to
Oh,
date.
you're stuck with me.
Perfect.
I love that.
Oh yeah.
um, Asher, question to you: would you say there was anything that sort of drew you to want to work on the project?
Oh yeah. I mean, just like this is my kind of game. Oh, like this is like regardless of my involvement of it, this is a game that like if I saw this out in the wild, I
Mhm.
would be really interested in it. So that immediately super interested in it. Um, and then so it's like I think there's that personal interest and drive in it, and on top of that, it's like I had been coming hot off the heels of working on a couple various animation projects in games or other media beforehand that were all more in the they're more in the realm of like children's education media, which is what I had been doing primarily beforehand. And I was looking to try and do other things that were more artistically fulfilling. And so this just kind of it checked off all the boxes of like, oh, this is like a dream project actually. Exactly the kind of thing that I would love to be doing in an ideal world. So yeah, it was like a pick.
Nice. Okay, I think that we've fallen a little behind on questions, so apologies all. Hopefully, you'll forgive me if we take a couple detours here and there while we're asking the specific questions written in the chat. So I think the next question um, was by Valena. Will there be any special duo or team abilities in combat, or is the idea more to strategize and combine abilities? So the sort of yes to both. There are some skills and passives between characters that go together. But there's not like the classic Chrono Trigger Link system where these two characters are going to use both of their turns to do a big combo attack together. We don't currently have a system like that in place. Those are super fun, but thematically they feel a little bit more like there's these really big OP attacks and they're really fun and they really have this like we're the heroes blasting the enemies with these awesome. I love them a lot, but thematically I feel like they don't quite work as well in this game. So there are things and skills that go together with characters, but we don't have the like combine turns together and get the mega blaster attack kind of thing. Hopefully that answers your question. Let's see, continuing down. Let's see, Warp has the next question. Question for artist. How did you find your way to this art style? Was it yours all along or did you adapt to the vision of the project? Janine, do you want to talk to that one just a little bit?
I was gonna say this is more like an Elaine question, but at least in my experience, Elaine was the one that defined the new art style. And basically, what I did was I tried to adapt as much as possible. Like, oh, I tried to learn how to think like Elaine. Basically, I remember we even hopped in a call, and then Elaine was describing to me like, oh, this is how you're gonna draw eyes. These are the general shapes we're gonna go with and approach with. Here's like the level of inks. Oh, and we also actually have a mural board that has like style exploration. We just collected a bunch of references that we like the direction of, and basically that's the art style right now is what Elaine came up with. And yeah.
Yeah, I think just to expand on that a little bit, what Elaine sort of did, and we kind of did the same thing when it was just me and Janine doing the initial art style, but Elaine kind of came in and said, here's where you're at. Talk to me about the mood of your game, what you
Mm-mm.
want the players to feel, experience, that sort of thing. And after she was maybe feeling a little bit more comfortable and familiar with the game, she went out and got maybe 6, 7 art style references that she
Mm.
thought could fit. And we went through each of those and we sort of said, yeah, here's character art style, here's environment art style. We think this one maybe fits best. How about that one? How about a mix of these two? And sort of using those art style references, we came up with what we hoped was a unique looking art style. Ultimately, you could say everything's been done before, but we really wanted to. And this is again me being really greedy. Something that I wanted was I didn't. My goal was not to say, "Oh, your game looks like blah." What I wanted, the goal that I wanted to aim for was for people to say after our game is out, was for people to say to other games, your game looks like Alarial's Blessing, which is a really, really maybe overly ambitious goal, but that was sort of the goal that I was aiming for when Elaine joined the team, is to try and do something unique that maybe other games remind you of it, but hopefully we don't just look like a copycat of some other game out there. And I'll let you all decide if we accomplish that or not. But that was the goal. Next question from Rowdy. With unique animations for different combat stances, are there any plans to add a uniform icon/visuals to indicate an enemy's stance? This is one of the things that I specifically probably don't want to do, at least when it comes to the enemies, because what I really really want, and this is where how well you have to embrace this depends on maybe the difficulty that you're on. I really want players to be looking at the enemies and trying to make judgments about, I think they look tired, or oh, I think they look very angry, and I it looks like something dangerous is about to happen, and then making a judgment call based off of that. And maybe you're not entirely certain if you were right or wrong, and it's a little bit of trial and error and guess and check. And I feel like if you added those icons, it takes that sort of learning thing away, and it makes it very, very much like, oh, I can just look at the icon and know. So the goal is to really try and encourage players to pay attention to the board. And something that I bring up in reference is, I don't know if you've played Monster Hunter or not, but one of the things that I really, really like about Monster Hunter, and there's, slowly changed over the years, but I like that in Monster Hunter, the enemies, you can't see how much health they have, right? It's like, oh no, am I getting close? Is the enemy almost dead? Oh, this fight's been going on forever. Is it like almost over? And you have to sort of pay attention. Oh, is the enemy running away? Did the enemy go and lay down in its nest and curl up? Then maybe it's like hurt and low on health. And oh, what about its attacks? Oh, I've learned that it only does this attack when it's getting low on health. So trying to encourage players to really pay attention to the enemies and not just look at, hey, here is this info that tells me everything I need to know. There's 3 different difficulties on the story focused difficulty. All of the information is available to the player immediately. So there's when you're in combat, you can kind of select an enemy and click on them, and it'll bring up a little like detailed info screen for the enemy. And on the lowest difficulty, you get all of the information that you could possibly have immediately. Maybe on that difficulty, you don't even need to do that. So that one, the information is available immediately up front, but maybe you don't even need it. On the balanced difficulty, you can see the enemy's stamina. So you maybe don't have to rely on, hey, this looks like a low enemy animation. They're almost out of stamina. I can take them out soon, because you can just see the number. But when you click on them, you don't get to see things like all of their passives, all of their attributes. That detailed information is not available until after your first failed attempt at the fight. So on balanced, you get this limited amount of information, and as hey, I made an attempt, I failed, that information is now sort of unlocked for you to see if you want to see it. And same with the turn bar. On the story focused and balanced, you can mouse over the turn bar. There's delayed skills that can happen. So maybe an enemy's doing like a big channeled attack, and it's going to hit a certain number of squares. On story focused and balanced difficulty, you can always mouse over the turn bar at the top and see where's the skill going to hit. On challenging, I really didn't want challenging to just be bigger damage numbers and bigger health pools, that kind of thing. I personally don't think that makes combat more challenging. It usually just feels more tedious. So for challenging, you have to do a better job of paying attention to enemy animations. And when an enemy does a delayed or channeled skill, it will show you where those squares are going to hit. When they cast the skill, it'll show you, but you won't get to see that again when you mouse up on the turn bar. So you either have to remember, or over time you'll slowly learn their patterns, that kind of thing. So there's different amounts of information that are shown, and the goal is to sort of engage players at the level that they want to engage with the combat system. And for those who really, really want deep, satisfying combat, then you've got to learn the enemies and pay attention to them and sort of figure out what you think maybe their patterns are. Let's see. Yes, hopefully the details. I'm a big fan of not giving spoilers. So hopefully none of this information is considered spoilers. You definitely maybe are getting more information than you might have seen elsewhere, but I don't consider any of this spoilers. So hopefully, hopefully no one feels we're going too far with the information. Hey, Frankenator. Glad to hear that you're hearing answers that you like. Okay. I'm slowly scrolling down and catching up. Another question from the McMiller. If you manage to reach the expanded combat animations goal, will we maybe get some finisher/execution animations when we deal a killing blow to an enemy or even a boss? Yes. So one of the things that, as an indie studio, we have a limited budget. At the end of the day, our funding is not giant and massive. And so there are some skills, like for example, Cal, he's a very defensive focused character. So he's got 3 or 4 different defensive skills, more than that. But in the demo, you get to play with 3 or 4 different defensive skills. Right now, visually, you see the same animation each time. Expanded combat animations would mean things like that. Maybe depending on which defensive skill Cal uses, you see a different animation in game. So it's a little bit more visually satisfying, a little bit more visually identifying and unique as you're using the various skills. It gives us more room to do things like what you're saying, some more unique animations to the party, maybe some more unique animations to the enemies instead of just one generic attack animation. Here's an animation that better matches the different skills that they're using. It is definitely something that we would love to add to the game, and it's why we put it as a stretch goal, because we are starting with here's the functional animations that we need to make the game satisfying and playable. And the expanded, combat animations budget would just give us the ability to add more. Would Threads of Time scratch that itch? Eternal Circuit, I'm not entirely certain.
Oh, I think that was in reference to like something that we were like talking
Okay.
about in the moment
Okay.
a while ago. I don't think that's like a
Okay,
isolated question. I think we were talking about food stuff, so the Threads of Time might have had like a food mechanic or something.
Okay. Apologies, Eternal Circuit. If you had a more specific question in mind there, let me know, and we'll get back to your question. Apples. Are you talking about cooking minigame stuff? Yeah. Threads of Time is looking amazing. I think that's the one that's like really, really looks like if there's lots of games that say inspired by Chrono Trigger. Threads of Time is like the most possible inspired by Chrono Trigger game that I think I've seen. And it looks amazing. It looks really, really good.
I love the blending of 2D and 3D. Like, I think anytime you do like something that's sort of evocative of mixed media like that, like it's always a really, really cool look.
Yeah, it's one of those things that one of the reasons that we went with the art style that we have now is there's in gaming there's always these patterns that you see, right? And for indie JRPGs, pixel art is pretty much the default go-to, and that was sort of the rule for a while. And then you started seeing this 2.5D, where it was a 3D world with 2D character sprites and things like that. And that's become pretty popular, pretty common these days. And I like both of those a lot, a lot. But I really wanted to do something different, and so that's why we went with the art style that we have. Is I think it's very different from anything that's out there, and for the kind of story that I wanted to tell and the themes that I wanted the game to have, I felt like I wanted an art style that would let you connect with the characters a bit more than pixel art sometimes feels like it can, where it's just a little bit more of this. You can really see the characters and maybe connect with them a little bit better, at least for me, sometimes than just like a pixel art character. Let's see. Five Guard is asking about the dialogue. So what I can say about the monologue that Jarrett was talking about for Cal, it's a monologue between him and Mina, and it's regarding Tyrannel. And I'll leave it at that. That's a little spoiler sampler taste of the monologue info, and we're stopping there. That's all you get. Okay. Mostly serious. This game, aside from having combat, doesn't look like it will be one of those frantic, no time to take a breath games. It looks like it'll take strategizing, you'll have to pay attention, but it doesn't look like quick time events will be prevalent. Is my assessment correct or am I misunderstood? You are 100% correct. This is entirely turn-based. There is no timing required for combat at all. There's no quick time events. There's no fast reaction. It is watch what the enemy is doing. When it's your turn, take as long as you want. Walk away for 30 minutes, come back. Maybe you'll, depending, like I was saying, depending on the difficulty you're on, maybe you've forgotten the skill that the enemy used. Maybe you're in trouble then. But one of the goals for the combat is there's something that I think happens sometimes in strategy RPGs or tactical RPGs is you get into this really tough situation where you want your turns to be meaningful. And so you do this game where you make damage significant so that, oh, I did a lot of damage on this turn and it really had an impact on the outcome of the fight. And so you get to a lot of these types of combat systems where players and enemies can die from 2 or 3 attacks because that's how you maybe make the combat feel, this thing I did felt really meaningful. But because so much of the combat is about pay attention to the enemy, I really, really didn't want combat to feel like, well, I'm guaranteed to fail the first time, and then the next fight maybe I'll have a better attempt. So combat is not designed around enemies and players die in 2 or 3 turns. The goal is there's room to make mistakes and be like, oh, well, okay, now I know what that does. Ouch. Don't let that happen again. But not like, well, that happened one time. Well, restart the fight. So the goal is to make there be plenty of room for learning, trial and error, and you've got room to make mistakes and learn from them. You don't have to play the fights perfectly, and it's not just enemies and players die in 2 or 3 turns. That's definitely one of the areas that we will need to find a balance around. We don't want fights to feel like they drag out and are too long either. So that's one of the areas we're still maybe tweaking and balancing a bit, is making sure that fights feel satisfying without dragging out, but also without making it feel like, I made one mistake and now the fight is over. That's a tough balance to find, but that's what we're aiming for. And also, just from a personal preference, some games do the real time and turn based really, really well. Expedition 33 is probably the best combination of that I think I've ever played. But I have played some games where they have like push the button to add extra damage, push the button to block, and then the animations don't feel like they line up with the timing at all. Or maybe you even have no way of knowing. I really find those frustrating. So at least for me, the goal was pure turn-based. Players take their time. They don't have to feel like they've got to get timing right on anything. All right, next question from Guard. Will there be an option to rewind/undo a turn if we mess up? Something similar to the newer Fire Emblem games. For those of us, totally not me, who are sometimes bad at things but want to try the difficult modes despite that. We don't have a undo a turn system, but based off of player feedback, I think that I am probably going to add a way to allow players to restart the fight. So like I said, hopefully players never feel like one turn messed up the whole fight. But maybe some people are going to feel that way no matter what. And definitely on some of the boss fights, I've talked about this a little bit, but on boss fights, you can attempt them at sort of like, there's the different difficulties that you can select when you're starting the game. But even outside of that, boss fights have sort of different levels of difficulty that's sort of dynamic in game. And just at a high level, to give an example, maybe for this boss fight, I'm going to try and win the fight with keeping all 4 enemies on the boss's side. And that's extremely challenging. No matter what difficulty you're playing on, that's pretty challenging. The fight is maybe more balanced around only 3 enemies on the boss's side. So maybe if you're opting into the hardest way to win a boss fight, maybe some players are like, man, I messed up, I just want to start over. We have thought about and probably will add a restart the fight mechanic. But it will have weight to it. It won't just be like open the UI, press the UI. So maybe you'll have to balance around, I want to restart the fight, but what do I have to do to make that happen? And decide if that's worth it for you or not. Okay. Velina's got another question. Is the world of Alarial's Blessing populated by only humans? I'm just wondering for the sake of NPC creation. This is actually something we spent quite a bit of time thinking about and debating. And I think, just to clarify, do you mean like sentient races? Like, are there bunny people or cat people or, trolls or, whatever, elves, things like that? If that's what you're asking, I'm gonna scroll down. I see they're typing. Yeah, sentient races. Okay. Um, it so to try not to get into too much lore and backstory that could possibly be considered spoilers. There is only one sentient race that is currently alive. And hopefully that is vague and answers your question without getting into too much of the lore and backstory that hopefully players will get to experience and discover while they're playing the game. Definitely one of the things like exploration. So talking about exploration, I think there's a bunch of different kinds of exploration. You can explore the world and, hey, what's that over there? I'm going to go check that out and see what that is. You can explore combat mechanics. What happens if I do this? Hey, I didn't know that worked like that. That's really cool. What happens if I decide to die right here and now? Wow, the game actually recognized that. That's surprising, but fun. And then there's, exploration of lore. So we definitely have designed a decent amount of backstory and lore for the world and for the game. And hopefully that's something that players enjoy as you play the game, learning more about the world. And we don't talk about her a lot, but I personally think of the goddess as sort of like a fourth main character. And she's been around for a long, long time. And so she and things that she's done are evident and around. And maybe the race of beings that is alive now are just the current race of beings and getting to experience their slice of the world and the narrative of the world that's taking place during this story. Let's see. I am reading all the comments, by the way, and I really, really appreciate all the feedback everyone is leaving, but I'm trying to skim over to the actual questions. So if you don't see me, reading out what you wrote, all of the feedback is super, super helpful. One of the reasons we do this is because we're looking for feedback. So definitely please continue leaving your feedback, even though I'm maybe not reading out just the feedback that you're leaving. Okay, this doesn't look like it'll be one of those games. Will some quests be time sensitive? Ooh, great question, the McMiller. I have a love-hate relationship with time sensitive quests. I hate missables. I personally like to and usually only play a game one time. And I'm sort of a completionist, and I want to be able to do everything and see everything. Timed quests make that really hard unless you're going to play with a walkthrough, and I don't like playing with a walkthrough because, again, then it's like you're not getting to explore the game and discover it for yourself. I also really, really don't like when quests are like, oh no, the village is burning, the dragon is attacking. I'll be back in 3 months. The dragon will still be attacking in 3 months. Not to worry, I know that'll wait for me because that feels really immersion breaking. So I have this really split feeling towards those kind of quests. And right now, there are no time sensitive quests because I'm leaning more towards the not having missables in the game, because I really want to encourage exploration and not want players to feel like they have to use a walkthrough if they want to experience everything on their first playthrough. But to balance that out, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure we don't have quests pop up that are like, the dragon's attacking the town. I'll get to it in a week. So we're going to try and balance that out so that I'm avoiding both parts of that I don't like. That's where we're at currently. I won't promise that will stay the same, but that's currently where we're at, and maybe some reasoning of why we're there. Turn-based more than none. By the way, I love seeing possible theories that people have about the game. It will make me super happy to see theories that people have. And something we will do once the game is released is we'll have a dedicated spoiler discussion channel for people who want to talk about spoiler and stuff post game, and we'll give people a chance to talk about how close or wrong or right, or what maybe future theories they have about the story. But I definitely like seeing theories that people may have. Yeah, nice. The McMiller, another completionist. Love it. Great question from Cinnamon Wolf. So there's a lot about this game which is being designed based off of how I like games. But that is not every design decision being made in the game. There's quite a few things that have been changed based off of feedback from other team members or other players. New Game Plus, I know there's a ton of people who like New Game Plus or repeat playthroughs. So officially, New Game Plus is one of the possible stretch goals we had considered right now. And New Game Plus means different things to different players. To some people, New Game Plus is like, I want to carry over all of my levels and gear and just absolutely stomp all of the fights. And so that sort of New Game Plus is not something we currently have support for in the game. That's something we would love to add, but it would depend on funding and budget. Now, I really want there to be a reason for people who like to play games multiple times. So there is ways that the story can be different and change from playthrough to playthrough. Maybe it depends on choices that you make. I talked about how bosses can have, different sort of dynamic difficulties, and maybe the story changes based off of the option that you take to beat a boss. And so maybe you beat it one time the first time you played through. Maybe you decide to beat it a different way the second time you play through the game. And maybe there are slight changes that you get to see in the story. We talked about, there's the game is not an open world game, but it's not linear either. The game initially it starts off a little smaller as you're first exploring and learning about mechanics and how the gameplay works and all of that, but it starts to open up more and more. So you'll have different options of, I want to go to that city next, or that city, or that zone. And things like the order that you go to cities or zones in can change and impact the story. So maybe on your second playthrough, maybe you go to cities in different order. So even without a New Game Plus, I think that there's fun reasons to revisit and replay the game. Maybe you want to try a different build. Like I said, the build system we are aiming and currently have a pretty deep talent tree and skill system in place. And maybe your second playthrough, maybe you go with a totally different build for your characters and you experience combat in a different way in your second playthrough. So I even though it's not how I prefer to play games, I recognize there's a ton of people who like that. And so we are trying to make sure that there's some satisfying options there for people who do want to play through the game multiple times. Yeah, the most mysterious, and there's definitely some lore to discover. That's, again, you're not the heroes. There's going to be stuff that maybe you don't understand. Maybe there's stuff that's outside of maybe there's creatures that are way more powerful than you, and you don't just get to go around killing everything in the game because you're the chosen party member. So we definitely have lots of lore that's sort of like unknown even to the party. Maybe the goddess gives little hints here and there, but maybe there's things that the goddess knows that the party doesn't know. Janine, nice tinfoil doodle there. Okay, so Sogard. I think maybe is that the better way to say your name, Sogard? I think you had a 5 there before, right? I'm not crazy. Did you change it from a 5 to an S?
You're hallucinating, Chris.
You got to have my back here. It was a 5, right? I'm not crazy.
Everyone gaslight this man.
You actually dreamed this entire Q&A before we actually started the real
one. You'd fit right in with the team. Giving me shit all the time. On the topic of exploration / lore / backstory, roughly how much is revealed via exploration, maybe, versus the main story progression is revealed via the main story progression versus optional side quests from NPC versus the self-driven exploration. I want there to be a balance of all of it. So I don't know if any of you have played Final Fantasy X-2. Final Fantasy X-2, I feel like, is a game that's almost notorious about, like, I'm going to make up a number, but I feel like 25-30% of this, some really high number, high percentage of the story feels like it's hidden behind, like, really secret side stuff. And so if you don't go do all of the side secret stuff, you're missing out on like a solid 20, I'm making up a number, 25% of the story. That's really, really fun. Maybe too high. I don't know if I want to go that high. But I really, really want there to be, there is absolutely going to be stuff where if you just stick to the main story, you're going to miss out on lore for the world, on dialogue between the characters. You're going to not know them as well as people who do all the side content. One of the rewards for exploration may not always be equipment. Maybe sometimes your reward for exploration is a little dialogue scene or a little exchange between party members where it just helps to get to know them better or tells you a little bit more about their background maybe that you wouldn't have known before. So I really want there to be a lot of rewards for exploration, and that will include lore for the world and background for the characters and dialogue for the characters. There probably won't be a ton of stuff that's like hidden in menus. I know some games have a lot of lore that's like read the books. There's books scattered throughout I think, like the Elder Scrolls games are pretty famous for that, where they legitimately have entire books that are hidden.
Do people actually read through those? Skyrim was the only Elder Scrolls game I played, and I had a hard time because I wanted to, I started off reading the books I picked up, and it was too many.
There's too many.
And so many of the books kind of went nowhere, and I was like, is this fun for people? Is this like a me thing? Am I just not getting it?
What about?
Skyrim, I was like, if someone doesn't tell me or talk to me, I'm not reading. So much, I'm just gonna be like a person in this world. I don't know much. I know what
my character can't read. That's just the role play.
How about you, Janine?
I tried it with Baldur's Gate 3. It was just too many books, so
That's another one. Yeah, and that game has really good writing. Like, I actually think a lot of the books do have some interesting things. It's too many.
yeah. Some
You
books,
need
some of the
to.
books.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like
yeah.
games with
Yeah,
such
yeah.
heavy narration, they tend to do better with when like those big blocks of text are voice acted. Because listening to someone to read to you is a lot easier than just staring at the screen as the letters start to just like fade out, and you're like, what?
Glassy eyed. So I will say that we are not going to have a ton of just lore buried in books or menus. There might occasionally be some, but that would be much more of a rare thing. I think that I agree with maybe the rest of the team that that sort of thing is super fun, but I'd rather have the lore be in dialogue or in a party exchange or maybe small minimal.
I
It can be
do
fun.
love like item descriptions,
Mm.
like when they have
Item
lore
descriptions are
on.
fun.
Yeah.
I do
I
love
think
when
all
you
of
can
that.
find like letters that characters in the world write to other
Yeah.
characters. That's like the acceptable form of like the written lore that I like. It's kind of just like you're just being nosy.
Yeah,
Well, and
you're
letters
reading
can't
Instead
be
of like
too
tea.
this
long
is
too. Like a
textbook.
letter
Good
is
luck.
like one page. You don't have to go through pages and pages.
Mm.
I feel like
So
there's like a tasteful amount that you can do that kind of thing. Is the thing is you can have the text that you just read and it can like be really really cool. You can't go too far with it.
Mm.
So we want to have all of it, but probably less of the just sort of menu book miscellaneous text driven lore. Although if you're not all picking up on it, Janine is a lore hound. And I think we get along well in this case because I always like there to be a reason for things, and even if it's stuff that the player never sees, you might be surprised that we've probably talked about it. And Janine is Janine is definitely someone who's like, yeah, okay, but like why or how or so she's a big proponent of making sure that the lore is there behind all the things.
I'm a lore nerd. Yes.
Let's see. Next question is from the McMiller. Since you want players to be able to experience everything, will it be possible to miss some scene in the camp that you mentioned earlier? I know this one was one point of frustration for me in Baldur's Gate 3. I didn't know at first that I needed to camp so often to see everything with the companions. It's a really good question, and that's a really hard problem to solve. Yes, technically there will probably be dialogue scenes that you can miss. Um, and I think that's the nature of a game that is focused heavily on exploration. Um, I think that we're going to try and find the balance. Hopefully, it doesn't end up feeling like a formula where some games like Baldur's Gate 3 and even a little bit Expedition 33, when you start to realize, oh, I don't need to go rest at camp, but I should rest at camp. Because I don't want to miss story, and so you just wind up doing it so that you don't miss story. The way we're going to try to solve that problem is we're going to try and give more of a reason for players to camp. So you're more likely to need to camp, and there'll be more times where nothing happens in camp because you just need to do that more often. So that's how we're going to try to solve that problem. There's more of a reason to have to camp more often. So you're less likely to just need to force this, well, I don't want to miss story, so let me go to camp. I think
I
Baldur's
think
Gate.
it's an engaging way to do that because that was my problem with Expedition 33, where I know for a fact there's a couple like optional cutscenes that I missed and bummed about, but it was because I literally had I never had any reason to go to camp in that game. To me, at least, it felt like, and so it wasn't until after the fact I was like, oh shoot, I didn't realize I was missing content. I thought it was all in the one-on-one character.
Yeah. So to we could talk about that a little bit more. So I talked about how combat is driven by stamina. Stamina is your primary resource. Things cost stamina. And one of the resources that you have to manage is your energy level. So at the start of every fight, you will start with maximum stamina, but maybe your energy level goes down as you go throughout a dungeon. So maybe you start the zone, the dungeon, at a very energetic energy level and you have maximum stamina. But maybe a couple fights didn't go well and you had to retreat. And so as you have to retreat in combat, it impacts the character's energy level. And so at the end of a long zone, maybe you went in feeling really energetic and you leave and your stamina level is exhausted. Well, probably you don't want to go into the next zone with an exhausted energy level. So you go and you camp and you reset your energy level for the next day, for the next travel, for the next zone, and you start at some nice refreshed level of energy. Camping is also, I talked about injuries. Camping is also one way where you can help recover injuries, or going to town, getting healed is a way to help recover injuries. So the camping has very practical things of helping deal with injuries, helping restore your energy level, and again, being hopefully, I talked about this before, but I really like when everything is tied together and all the systems feel like they have to be there because it all makes sense. So again, how do you solve the problem of forced dialogue? Well, having to camp. Well, how do you make players camp? Well, the energy level. I also the one of the reasons that we have the stamina and the energy level. We can talk about that real quick. I I am very guilty about when you're going through a zone. Let's say you have a magic user in your party and they have mana. The rule is, and is both for mana and for games that have items, you don't use your mana or your items until like the boss fight at the end of the zone. And so you end up, not using the mana for the magic caster and trying to hoard and reserve your materials because you don't know when or how you're going to need them. So the idea of the stamina system is it resets every fight so that you're not trying to like hoard anything. This is what I can use and this is what the impact will be. If I use up all of my stamina and a party member has to retreat, then it impacts your energy level. And the energy level is one of the resources that maybe hey, I really want to attempt the boss fight at the hardest difficulty level. So I'm going to try and reserve my energy levels and my stamina for the boss fight and not go all out on fights along the way. So hopefully we're trying to have both of those where you're not trying to be stingy with resources because you don't know when you might need them, but then also players are rewarded for trying to play smart and reserve their resources and use them as wisely as possible. Okay. Eternal Circuit, no, there are no RNG based events. We also don't even have RNG in combat. Combat is very deterministic. I really don't like it when combat's like, oh man, the enemy got a lucky crit. The only reason I lost is because the enemy got a lucky crit. Or if any of you have ever played XCOM, a 95% chance to hit, that means I'm guaranteed to miss.
Misses.
Yes, I want combat to feel like I succeeded because of my knowledge and my strategy, or I lost because that was dumb. I shouldn't have done that. Okay, well, I'll not do that next time. Um, it doesn't mean combat is entirely set. We want there to be variance, so damage numbers have like ranges to them and things like that. It's not always if I do the same attack to the same enemy, it'll do the same amount of damage every time. So there is some variance, but we're trying to take RNG everywhere out of the game as much as possible. But still making sure that there's enough variance so that it's not just always, well, I know exactly how this is going to end up. Um, but yes, RNG is, at least to me, super frustrating. uh, let's see. From next question is from the most mysterious. From the poll on the Kickstarter, the live orchestral music. Will this be like the Undertale orchestra? If so, where will they happen? Because I'm Brazilian and I don't think I can personally vote for that because it'll probably not happen where I live. So what we mean by that is that we'll be working with an orchestra to record the music for the game. So it's not like you have to go to a performance to hear the orchestra. We're going to have the orchestra. Pietro obviously has, you've heard some of the songs, but instead of Pietro creating all of those digitally, it would actually be performed by a live orchestra and recorded, and that would be added to the soundtrack and put in the game. And Pietro has scouted out. There's an orchestra that he's already got in mind. Pietro is in Italy, by the way, and so it would be an orchestra over there in Europe. It would that he'd end up working with. So you would not be required to live anywhere near this place to get to hear the beautiful orchestral music. um, totally gaslighting me, by the way. I know that was a 5. I know that was a 5. Okay, great. Cinnamon Wolf has a question for the artist. What's your favorite part of seeing fan art? Assuming you enjoy fan art. And what sort of fan art are you looking forward to the most? Let's start with Janine.
I actually love seeing any form of fan art. Like, I'm honestly just so grateful seeing fan art of this game, and it's just really awesome. Like, be it a sketch or even the 3D models that I'm seeing as they're practicing poses. It's really cool that you're taking inspiration from the game to even like use it as motivation to create art for yourself, and I think that's really cool.
Greta, how about you?
Yeah, I think.
Oh,
Oh, sorry.
yeah, sorry. We'll Greta next. We'll save that. We'll save the best for last.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna kind of copy what said, and just like, yeah, no, it's super awesome seeing all the fan art that's been posted, and like, even if we don't necessarily directly respond to all, we try to. Sometimes we're like in the middle of a meeting when they get posted, and then we talk about it behind the scenes. It's always just it's like really uplifting to see like community involvement in that way. Any form of community involvement is really cool. I don't think that there's like a type of fan art that any of us are really looking forward to, or at least I'm not, because it's all cool. If there is like a palpable goal of sorts, I would say like just seeing more of it. Like if we somehow got to the point where like I'm scrolling on social media and I can just happen across Alarial's Blessing fan art, like that would be sick. But just happy that it's there at all.
Right now, I'm actually happy waking up and seeing like, oh, there's a new notification on the fan creations. I want to see. I want to see.
Yeah.
All right, how about you, Greta?
Yeah, I agree. As someone who loves drawing fan art of my favorite things, it's really great to see other people drawing fan art. Especially, I look forward to when, like, the game's out and people experience it, because I feel like you can see what people really love about something with like what kind of fan creations or fan art they make. Like, if it's like they really love the designs, they really love certain story beats. But it's also just really cool seeing how people interpret the designs as their own.
Yeah,
So we're
is
always
great.
watching. Maybe not always commentating, but we're always watching.
And you should know, we absolutely talk about those at our meetings. Even it's totally live in a meeting. Oh, fan art! We're all distracted.
Business, we need to go over there.
Yeah.
Did you guys see? Did you guys see the
It wasn't pointed at me, but I'll just add something that
What about you, Chris?
I love the fan art. It's crazy seeing our creation getting fan art. And every time a new first happens, it's really, really cool. And I think the next one that I'm super secretly excited to see is our first cosplay. I'll be like just
that's
giddy.
gonna be a big deal.
Yeah.
Fan stories are also going to be coming.
Oh my
Those
gosh,
are
yes.
always interesting.
We we should
Fan
have a
fiction.
frame.
Like fanfic.
The first one of each kind
Oh.
should be framed.
So probably an ongoing thing that I'm going to do from time to time is just share fan art, either like on the Kickstarter updates or post to the website, that kind of thing. So we love it. We love it.
Quick aside, Jarrett, I just listened to the Cal has been poisoned.mp3
Me
that you
too.
posted. That is amazing. I love that you did that.
I love that.
I had to.
Oh, well, now I got to scroll down.
Cal has been poisoned.
We need
There's
to
no
we need to
Center
get that
nearby.
into the game somewhere. Like
You should
like
set
at the
up
very
camp.
like as a hidden Easter egg. Like there's got to be somewhere where you can activate that MP3.
One of the requirements for all the VAs is as we start recording more and more audio, they have to send me all of the outtakes and the mess ups, and because we're totally going to have those available. I haven't decided exactly how we're going to share those yet, but we're going to have those available for people who want to hear the fun outtakes from the VAs.
I actually have a funny story. So Chris, I recorded some audio a while back, I think for the trailer and maybe a couple other things. And I always clean up my audio before I send it, right? Because I'm burping, I'm doing random stuff. You got bodily noises happening. So and sometimes I'm talking to myself, whatever, right? So I clean all that stuff up. And then I send Chris the edited file, right? That's just got the dialogue. I got them mixed up and I sent him just all my rambling and everything. And he messaged me and he was like, dude, these are so funny. These were so great. And I'm like, what? Wait, what are you talking about? So then I listened to the file and I was like, oh no.
They were very funny. I was like, oh, okay, I guess Jerry and I are very close and comfortable now.
Yeah, that's mine.
Yeah, the most mysterious you're talking about Genshin Impact and the hidden lore. Another game that I think I I really like it. Dark Souls and the Dark Souls games in general. I like them a lot. But sometimes I'll see posts where people are talking about the lore of the game, and I'm like, where was that? Did we play the same game? How did you get all of that lore? And I think it's because I'm pretty guilty about. I don't even know how sometimes they find all of this lore, but some of it feels just like super super hidden and deep, and that's not what we're going to be going for. I definitely want most players to walk away with a solid 60-70% of the lore, maybe, just from playing through the game and not having to I don't want players to walk away and have no clue what the story was that they just experienced, other than it was fun, which is how I feel I kind of walk away from Dark Souls games. And maybe that's a me problem, but you were, Velina, talking about a wiki page is one of those other exciting things. I look forward to finding a wiki page of our game in the wild. That'll be one more of those small little, shedded little tear. Oh, we have a wiki page.
And there's a page about Chris.
Oh, I see. Here's the comment from Sogard explaining the audio that we got from Jarrett. All right, I'm catching up now. Man, if there's a game that ever told me I had a 100% chance to hit and then I missed, I would probably rage. There's a video that my wife showed me. I think it was on like TikTok or something. And it was like gamers when they play a game, and the video is just like the guy screaming "Ah! Ah! Ah! Ah!" the whole time. My wife would probably say, "Yep, that's Chris. That's him." I have gotten better about, look, you don't have to play on the hardest difficulty. It's fine. You're really not that good at games, Chris. You should probably lower the difficulty.
I've been playing a lot of Silksong lately, and I've been doing some of the like challenge mini games in it that are like really, really hard and require many, many reattempts. And I also make a lot of noises when I'm like really invested in what I'm doing. And it got to the point where my girlfriend was able to tell how I lost the mini game based on what type of a noise I made. And so sometimes she would just kind of give me a look and be like, "Oh no, did you do the blank?" And I'd be like, "Yeah."
That's really funny. Okay, Janine, Greta, are either of you noise ragers? Is it just me and Asher?
The more focused I get, the more silent and more still I become. So sometimes like, are you
Yeah,
even playing
yeah.
right now? And I'm like,
Just in the zone.
The Zen.
I'm also a quiet, but then Joseph would hear like, yes! And then like, oh, she did it.
it's unless it's a horror game and I get scared, that's when I start scaring other people because it goes from complete stillness to me just jumping and yelling. And it's kind of like those yells where it's more of like an exhale instead of like an active scream.
Are you guys like that with other media too? Because I definitely like I emote during all things. Like you know, obviously like a movie theater, I'm good and quiet and stuff. But if I'm like in a relaxed environment at home watching something, I will like absolutely vocalize or like
Yeah.
movement
In-
reaction to things.
In a
I'll make
relaxed
faces.
environment.
Yeah. What was that, Greta? I didn't hear you.
I'll make faces.
Faces.
And
Oh,
so my
okay.
friend was like, it's so easy to know what you feel about what just happened on screen. Because your face just tells me everything.
Okay, I am going to give a 7-minute warning. We are approaching the 2-hour mark, and I don't want to keep everyone for too long. So we'll say in about 7 more minutes. I'm still scrolling through, but if there's any questions that you post that we don't make it to, then what I'll do is I will go ahead and answer those questions on the Discord channel directly. So feel free to keep posting whatever questions you have, and if we run out of time, I'll answer them in text. Let's see. Talking about fan art, and definitely before, I talked about wanting to share it and post it. I always will try and make sure to reach out and get permission, because I don't assume just because you shared it on the server that means that I can post it wherever. So before I end up sharing any fan art, I'll always either reach out directly or on the server to just make sure you're okay with me sharing it in various places. Mm-mm. Okay, I think that wind gray hair. All right, so Cinnamon Wolf can vouch that there is at least gray beard hair. So we'll see. You can all watch in real time if the stuff up top starts turning gray over the course of the rest of the development of the game. There were totally a dozen witnesses. I think that maybe takes us to the very end of our session here. Thank you so much, Asher, Janine, Greta, Jarrett, for hopping on, spending your Saturday morning with all of us. I guess you should all know that Janine is amazing. It is probably like 2 o'clock her time. We can all see the clock. It's like 3 o'clock her time.
Yeah, it's almost
She's
3.
amazing. Thank you for being here with us.
She does this regularly for meetings and stuff. It's crazy.
One time, me and Chris had like a meeting, and it was morning, and he felt he got disoriented. There's like sunlight shining.
Janine, you're not in your artificial light prison. What happened?
Yeah, we are an international team, which means we're kind of spread around the world. And Janine is amazing, and she meets with us at some odd times. Although she had the choice, she could meet early in the morning or late at night, and she opted into late at night. So, but she's still amazing.
I don't trust myself to wake up early.
All right. I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful.
We had one more
Oh,
question.
there was
one more.
a
Warp,
last question.
Warp just posted.
Okay. Are you planning on post-launch support? Yes, absolutely. So, as a studio, we have long-term plans, and you don't get to have long-term plans. You don't get to make a third game if you have a bad first game and you don't support the first game after it goes live. So we absolutely are going to be doing everything in our power to make sure that not only is the story as amazing and the game as amazing as we can make it, but that players feel like they're getting all the support that they want and need once the game goes live. We're going to be spending a lot of time doing quality assurance. That's my day job is software development, so I'm really, really familiar with the process of writing software and doing everything in your power to test it and verify that it works as expected. There's through some of the play tests that we're going to have with the alpha testers and the beta testers. Hopefully, you all will forgive us if there's things like this doesn't work in my operating system, my monitor resolution, things like that. And so hopefully with the help of some of the testers, we can make sure that we've got good coverage, because there's a million different types of setup out there. And what I've already discovered is things like, for example, I don't have ultra wide monitors, and one of our play testers had ultra wide monitors. And he was like, "Hey, your game looks completely broken on my ultra wide monitor." And I was like, "Oh, you're totally right. I never tested it on an old. I tested it on all the quote unquote normal monitor resolutions, and ultra wide was not one I even thought of to test. So things like that. But we are absolutely going to be supporting the game post launch, because, as we said, this isn't the only one we want to make.
Oh, also, real quick, I apologize if I just spaced during this, but I think earlier at some point I saw someone ask if we were going to do another Q&A at some point. Did you answer that and I missed that, or?
Oh, I maybe missed that. I think so. We're here. We want to keep doing these sorts of things periodically. One of the reasons of doing Kickstarter is you get to have a community that you're engaged with, and you're not just working behind closed doors the whole time. So we're here. We'll do them periodically. There's a lot of these things, like we chose Saturday today because someone on Discord said, "Hey, the launch party was on a Tuesday, and I can never make it during the week. Could you do one on the weekend?" So sometimes these things are kind of driven by you all. So let us know what you like. We are here to try and make you all as happy and excited about the game as possible. And if you can't tell, we also really love talking about the game. So we'll definitely be doing more of these, maybe different varieties, different setups, that kind of thing. We'll see what people like. If people thought this was fun, then maybe we'll do this format again. Maybe we'll try different formats. To be determined. We're going to try stuff out. Thank you all very, very much for the excellent, wonderful questions and for keeping us company. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye
Thanks,
bye
everyone.
from
Thank you for coming.
Bye bye.
yeah.